video. Today we're going to talk about values. It's an element of art, one of the 7 elements of art. Those are the things we have to make art with. And values are a way to make things look three-dimensional. What do I mean by three-dimensional? Basically, I mean that things look realistic and they have life. They look like they have some depth. They're coming at us. If I were to take this water bottle right here, this is not a shape. This is an actual object. It's what we call a three-dimensional form. It's got width, it's got height, it's also got depth. And that's where we're at with values. The whole idea of values is so that you can do something like this. This is an artist I follow named Nathan Fowkes or Fowkes. I don't really know how to pronounce his last name, but he's very inspirational. He's a background artist for animations. You see his drawing build up from just lines, the line drawing, into now start throwing some of the dark shadows into it. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, it starts creating some dimension, but it's still not three-dimensional until we keep going, and you look at this final version and it looks very realistic, even though it's on just a flat piece of paper. All right, here's what I'm talking about with values. If you can see these drawings, I have some basic drawings. The difference between this drawing here, we'll get to later in this series of art class demos and get to be able to draw more like this and this, where things look how they really look. We're trying to understand this concept here, this idea of values, where it's a series of steps of gray from the lightest light to the darkest dark, the lightest light being white, the darkest dark being black, or as dark as we can get, and then a series of steps of gray in between. Our eyes can see an infinite number of values in nature. However, you don't really need to be able to draw that many to make things look realistic. You need at least 3 values to make things look three-dimensional. In this value scale, we have 5 steps. Let me show you how we're going to learn this. So we're going to use this handout and this handout to learn about values. We're going to use, it says on this first column, it just says to just use shading. And on our handout, it says shade each square as evenly and as smoothly as you can. Make each square as consistent as possible. For creating value, we're going to have each column have values that are evenly spaced apart visually. That means if this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. Visually, it doesn't look like 1, 1.5, 2, 2.25, 5. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So the way we do this, again, here's my pencil. Here's my drawing pencil. It's just a number. It's just an HB. Like if you guys have an HB pencil, just a number 2 pencils, an HB, that's fine. I'm going to do everything with this pencil. One thing you can see is the way I sharpen it is a little bit different. Instead of just sharpening it normally, I use a razor blade and sharpen it a little bit. I pull some more of the pencil off of there so that I can lay it down sideways more. And it allows me to use more of the side of my lead versus just the tip. That's kind of a trick for those of you who use the mechanical pencils, what some people call lead pencils. It makes it harder. Using a traditional wood pencil like this works really well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my paper around as I do this. And I'm going to lay my pencil down sideways on the side more. And I'm going to start with the darkest box. And that means that I'm not just using the point of the pencil where I get a lot of streaks. If I get some streaks, that's okay. I'm going to get some. The streaks are the little white gaps. It's okay. I'm trying to be nice and controlled up to the edges and cleanly break. And you're going to not do what a lot of people do sometimes, and that's now take my finger and smudge that all around to make it more consistent. We're going to have a video on that. I think it's the next video where we talk about learning how to blend things. I'm going to tell you right now that 90% of your blending between, marks or values or shading or whatever should be done with just your pencil. Okay? You can't really control where you put the pencil down if you're trying to smudge it all around with your fingertip
or with a paper towel or tissue. Sometimes people use Q-tips. Those aren't really even, they don't work that well. I mean, all that will smudge things around, but you can't control where the pencil goes, where the marks go. And so what happens is you just make a big blurry mess. See, I'm not trying to do it all in one pass. It's all about layering, lightly building it up, slowly building it up, but being controlled. Again, I'm trying to be nice and smooth and consistent, right up to my edge, and stop. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for now. So if you see, because I've done 5 and then 3, now I have something to judge against for my 4. And I'm probably gonna have to push this a little bit darker once I get 4 in there. And then I can really see, okay, I'm probably a little light on that. I'm gonna push that darker. But I can fit the second one in between 1 and 3. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now. So this is kind of hard too, learning how to stay light on this, but not so light that you can't see it. One of the benefits also to sharpening a pencil like I do and laying it down sideways is that it kind of keeps it sharp. As I form a little flat dull spot, instead of having to really go hit the pencil sharpener, I just kind of twist my pencil, find another spot. It really doesn't, and I hardly ever sharpen my pencils because I don't need to, because the drawing movement does it for me. And it's clean, crisp, stops and breaks in between the corners and edges, especially between values. When we draw the first form, the cube, that's going to be really important. Okay, now we're going to hit that number 4. And once I put this in, I can see, okay, 1, 2, 3, I gotta go darker. This is gonna need to go a bit darker, maybe about a half step. I'm probably at about a 4.5 on that as it is right now, maybe even a 4. So I'm just gonna try to lay it. See how I'm still holding it back? I'm doing that so that I can really lay down my pencil, the graphite of the pencil, nice and smooth, not get too dark too quickly. Even though I'm pushing a little harder than I was up here. And I can use the point of a little bit more, corners and edges. But I still don't really want to use the point like I do when I write. When I do that, I just leave a bunch of streaks. There we go. And slow down a little bit. Layer that, come back, fill that in a little bit. Okay, so if we look at this in sequence, let's turn it vertically. All right, my value scale, obviously that's done. It's a water paper, but that doesn't become a value. It's not like these are all highlights. It doesn't become a highlight until I shade darker around it. As soon as I hit that little darker next to it, boom, the highlight appears. That looks pretty good. This probably could go a little darker, and this could probably go, I'm gonna take this a little bit darker. Can you see how these two are very close together compared to, if I just look at these 3 in sequence, and I squint. It's another thing I'm gonna teach you, is to squint at things. It uses a different part of your eyes where you see just values. Okay, does that look halfway between those two? Or does it look a little closer to one or the other? I think it looks a little closer to this. So I'm gonna push that a little bit darker. And if I look at those, but if I look at those 3 in sequence, that looks pretty good. Those 3 look really good. So if I go that darker, we'll see what happens to that one. We look at those three in sequence. Obviously, those two are real close together, so I'm going to push that one a little darker. Okay, and I don't have any paper underneath my paper. That's another thing that sometimes I see students do, and all that does is absorb your pressure. So if you're using a sketchbook, just fold it all the way open and just have the one page. Okay, let's just kind of finish up this. It actually, it all works pretty good now. I didn't need to actually make this. So if I were doing this for my own drawing, for drawing I was doing, I'd probably want to go through and make this a little bit smoother. For an exercise though, to learn how to use values, that looks pretty good. Okay, if we take a look at our second technique here to build up value, the middle column called cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is a technique where all you do is you use a series of lines that cross each other. Okay, you can see on this technique right here, all I've done is I added vertical lines, horizontal lines, diagonal lines at a 45, diagonal lines at another 45. And I'm trying to build up value, to match my values as I'm moving across the paper. If you can see this value, it doesn't quite match this value yet. I'm trying to build up my darkest value. What I have is probably about this middle value. It's probably about in that range right there, okay? So the technique is the more you can picture your fingers crossing each other, I'm blocking out parts of the paper, really, is what I'm doing. So to make this darker, I need to keep going. I'm gonna add another line, very controlled, in the gaps. Okay, and so the more lines I have together, darker it will appear. And I'll show you some examples of this being used in real life. One, where you see this being used is if you busted out a dollar bill or any of the money. That's the way they get the main figure in each bill. Like the dollar bill is George Washington. To get his face to appear three-dimensional and have some depth to it, they use what's called a cross contour, which is basically just this cross hatching that's put on a curve. That probably is now in that range, but I'm aiming for that. So I'm gonna keep going with another set of diagonals. The biggest thing is trying to really match the values as we use these different techniques. Not exactly the same, but pretty close. I'm actually gonna move up to this one right here just to show you real quick. Here's, again, I'm gonna turn it this way and go. And I'm trying to use it even spacing, best I can, nice and straight lines, controlled, and come back. And I'm trying to keep the thickness and the darkness of my lines consistent. Clean those up a little bit. Okay, same spacing. Okay, see how those two are pretty close? So I need to match that value though. So I'm gonna throw one course of diagonals in. Right at a 45. Okay, not quite there. Do one more, and I'll be there. Okay, let's squint at it. I'm good. Okay, there we are. Further along in the exercise, you can see the cross hatching has matched values as we move across and get darker and darker as we go down. For the last technique, we're just using a combination of scribbling and squiggling and just making random marks. If you can see, I'm still trying to build up my value here so that it matches fairly close. It doesn't have to be exact, again. What all I'm doing is I came in with a mark This is going to seem a little ridiculous at first, but I'm going to show you some examples that look really cool. My mark is just kind of like, almost like a figure 8, and then it's like a little scribble. And this is just another way to build up value. And it's another way to just kind of, as you do this, when you want places to be darker, you have more lines. You want it to be a lot lighter, you use less. It's a very valuable mark that you can make that distinguish your drawing from other people's. They make it have some other character, some little bit of your own personality come through. I'm still trying to be real controlled with it. It's real neat, nice clean break where I want to, but as I layer this weird kind of figure 8 mark, each little layer adds more value and more texture. Control up to the edges, into the corners. I matched that pretty well going across. Yeah, I think so. Okay, again, this is my mark. It's kind of, it's not really predictable other than it's kind of figure 8 and circles, squiggles, S kind of, and I want it to be random, but also to kind of come together to unify the space. So see how right now, this is still almost like that, almost that same value. I want to work on them for a little bit, I'll come back. Okay, here we go. This is now complete. As you see that the values can be established by using all kinds of different marks. Mark making is such an unappreciated part of art. We always want to kind of go to this nice smooth shading, and that's beautiful, it is. But there's so many other marks you can make. They can have so much more character, or different character. I don't know that one's better or worse, they achieve different results, and depends on what you're after, which type of mark you need to be making, or would contribute to the overall feeling of your piece.
All right, that was our discussion on values. Remember, values are a way to make things look three-dimensional, make things look realistic, to try to mimic the way light falls on objects, using different shades of gray from all white to all black and the gray steps in between. The next video we'll talk about blending, learning how to blend with our pencil, and learning how to blend with a tool called a tortillon, or a blending stump. See you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.